So my name is Hussain Sinan. I'm the Director General for Fisheries and Ocean Resources Management in the Ministry of Fisheries in the Maldives. So for the Maldives, the biggest challenge in terms of fisheries and ocean governance is the impacts on climate change. With the increase in sea surface temperature and ocean acidification in the Indian Ocean in particular, there is a significant shift in migration patterns in fisheries. Um, so for the Maldives, fisheries is quite significant. We import almost everything except fish, tuna. So we consume around 150 kilograms of tuna per person per year. So any changes in migration patterns would have a significant impact on the food security of the Maldives. And Maldives has been fishing pollen line fisheries for targeting skipjack tuna for almost more than a century. So our livelihood and our culture is very much closely linked to tuna fisheries. As tuna migrate with increasing sea surface temperature, there's going to be little less tuna that's going to surface up on the sea surface, which would mean that the amount of tuna that's been harvested by the local fishermen would also decrease. And in the Maldives, we also the tuna fisheries is practiced almost all in the 200 islands where people live in. So the Maldives, we have around 1,190 islands, which is dispersed across the Maldives. And fisheries is the main livelihood in most of the outer islands. And if there is a significant change, then there would be a significant loss in livelihood. So we did a very recent study with the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. The study illustrated that by the end of this century or in over 100 years, the Maldivian fisheries catch levels would decrease by almost around 70%. This would have a significant impact on the livelihood, on food security, and on our culture. So, and the way we live would have a significant impact, which would also be closely linked to the way how people treat ocean as well, the link between ocean and their livelihood. So, in short, climate change is going to be the biggest challenge for the Maldives towards the end of this century in terms of the way how we live. So the Maldives, because our fisheries and ocean, the way how we practice, the tourism model itself is very much linked to the ocean. So any the newcomers or the people who come from school, there's a very close link to their career pathways to the ocean, whether it's in terms of divers, whether in terms of marine biologists. But in fisheries, I think we face similar challenges such as in Europe, where new crew, the new generation of people, there is less interest in joining fisheries because, for number one, it's quite challenging to be on a fishing vessel for almost 200 days a year. We've been facing similar challenges like in Europe. So the government has started programs to attract youth into fisheries sector itself. We've now have a fisheries degree program in the university, which we didn't have before, and the government is planning to introduce a skipper training program as well to attract younger generation to come into fisheries. There's a significant potential because the ocean there's a significant, in the Maldives, for example, our ocean space is 99% of our space is ocean. So for us, and the way, as I explained to you, the way how we've lived every day is very much linked to the ocean. Whether when we go for a swim, or whether or how we obtain our livelihood through tourism or in fisheries is linked to the ocean. Uh, better awareness on whether it's the value that we get by observing the ocean, the calmness of the ocean. Sometimes the ocean becomes quite fierce, but to experience that fierceness is also a part of the way how we live. For example, I studied my PhD in Canada, but I just couldn't live in a place where I couldn't see the ocean. So the way how we choose where we study is also very much linked to the ocean. If there's no ocean, it would create troublesomeness in my mind. Right from the time that we are born, we are exposed to the ocean. Um, you know, but surprisingly, there are lots of new generation of people who do not know how to swim. So government have started programs to encourage people, new students to start swimming as part of the educational programs. But the way how we brought up, we've been is to go, and whenever you have free time, you go to the ocean, you experience that the linkage right from when you have been a kid. Um, and I think the most important part in the way how Maldivians are sustainability. Uh, whether it's fisheries, whether it's tourism, everything is very much linked to appreciating what God has given to us, and to make sure that the stock is not only for us but for the generations to come. For example, the pollen line fishery in the Maldives, there's no bycatch, so it's only skipjack tuna and yellowfin. So there's no mammals, no sharks being caught in the pollen line fishery. So that's how the fishery has been passed on to us from generations to generations, and we've continued to do so. So in our fisheries law, net fishing, any forms of net fishing is banned. No purse seining, no long lining. It's only pollen line and hand line. So one fish at a time. And that's the way how we've lived, because it's now in the law, that means the future generations would also have that practice on. So I think key for us, the Maldives, has been sustainability, and I think that's a really important element for the Europeans as well, to go on and to follow. Sometimes when we talk about sustainability, because it's such a catchy phrase, because so even when you have for example in purse seining, where you catch big schools of tuna, which with mammals, sharks, and other stuff, you might, there are a lot of organizations calling that it is sustainable, but in terms of how much bycatch that you catch or kill, you can't really say it's fully sustainable. So I think it's really important to understand the linkages, or the way how we look at the ecosystem as a whole, not just individual fish, but the way how you impact the whole entire ecosystem is important. Experience the ocean. I think experiencing the ocean is one quite big element, and I understand not all European countries would have ocean as their boundaries. It's, you know, the way how